Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. And also I'm minus 10 degrees outside here in southern Hungary. Although it is quite a sunny day, there's a little bit of a high mist covering or layer. Not quite sure what the terminology of that is, but it's chilly outside, so I'm sitting in here. And I thought what I would do is give you an outline as to who we are and what we're about, and also why I find myself as an Englishman living in southern Hungary. So let's go back to the beginning. It all starts in 2012 when I met Anna, and I think it was between 4 and 5 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun, and it's not easy to remember the actual dates, but we made the decision to move back to her native country for her to be closer to her immediate family, i.e. her 2 daughters. And they have then gone on to have their own families, get married, have kids, and we now find ourselves in southern Hungary, fairly close to one of the girls who has now 3 children or so and is a very happy grandmother and also quite busy. The thing is, a few questions. Was it an easy decision to make? Yeah, it was. It was for me. For her, definitely. Was it an easy thing to do? Relatively speaking, yeah, I think it was. Have there been any difficulties? Yeah, there's been some. Bureaucracy, paperwork, that kind of thing. Getting used to the environment. Big change for me, not so much for her, but certainly for me. Would I change it? Nah, not at all. Not when you look around and see what we've got and what we're doing and what we're going to do. But no, I wouldn't change it. It's a fantastic place to be. Yes, there are some challenges. Yes, there's a lot of things to get used to with the way of life and how people do things. But overall, no, I wouldn't change it. I don't even have a problem with the language. I don't speak it, but I don't have a problem with it either. There is such a thing as technology. Google Translate never lets me down. So how did we find this place? Well, we came here on a family trip. I think it was around about the 5-year mark, 5 years ago. And we originally went to Anna's family home in the north of the country. But initially we were looking at the idea of perhaps relocating there. But then we decided perhaps that wasn't such a great idea after all. And so we travelled down to the south of the country to be with Anna's other daughter, her youngest daughter. And we were talking about it over a couple of drinks. And it was her husband who said that he'd seen a house for sale. Now, the weird thing is here is that how they sell their houses. Yeah, okay, there's estate agents or real estate agents as they're called in the US, I believe. And you can use those places, but obviously the seller is going to have to pay a commission and all that. There's a cost involved. I've never seen a house for sale on Facebook Marketplace, but that's exactly where we found this. So the son-in-law found it, told us about it. We kind of worked out roughly where it was in the location. So we decided to jump in the car, middle of the summer's day, and head over and have a look. So that's what we did. And we drove around, kind of using the pictures on Facebook to get a rough idea of where it was. And because the son-in-law knows the location on the area really well, we were able to kind of pinpoint the area. Anyway, we came across it and we found it. And we were quite a distance from the main gate of the house. We called the guy that had the advert and asked, we're outside, can we come have a look? No problem. So he wasn't bothered about us seeing his environment, warts and all, with his wife and young kid, 2 dogs, and him and his mate outside the front preparing a car. So in we came, we had a look around. Have you ever had that feeling when you walk into a house that you're potentially looking to buy and think, yeah, this is the one? Well, we got that here. Both me and Anna, we both got that. Can't tell you why. What we were looking at wasn't what we were perhaps used to back in the UK. But anyway, we left the place, went into the local town for a spot of lunch, and we had a bit of a chat about it and decided to buy it. Now, here's another thing that's unusual about buying a house in this country. It's probably easier for a Hungarian person rather than somebody like me. But we call the guy, say, yeah, we want to buy it. Within 24, 36 hours, we're sitting in a lawyer's office signing the contracts and paying. We'll come on to the cost of that in a bit, but that was it, done. So off we go. We bought a house. Within 48 hours of seeing it on Facebook Marketplace to signing the contracts, we've got it. But not quite. Okay, we paid the money, but here there is another system whereby the purchase is advertised locally so that if anybody has a right to buy that property for whatever reason it might be it part of a family estate or it's a neighbour next door, they have a higher right to buy it than perhaps we did because we're not from the area. So 6 or 7 months later, it was confirmed it was ours. Great. So what did we buy and where did we buy it? Well, we bought what's called a tanya. Now, a tanya is a traditional building that is commonly, well, it's certainly found here in our area, the Great Plain. Is it called the Great Plain or the Great Southern Plain? Anyway, to me, it's the Great Plain. Southern Hungary. We're very close to the border of Serbia. Our closest town is a place called Kecskemét. There's a massive Mercedes factory there, which is probably what it's most famous for in the area. It's a big employer. But we bought this tanya. And a tanya is basically an old farm dwelling. If I said farmhouse in the UK, people would imagine a great big 4, 5, 6 bedroomed house made of stone with huge areas of land in order to grow their stuff. Here, a farmhouse or farm dwelling is not that kind of thing. First of all, it's quite a small structure, room-wise, and it is predominantly made traditionally. Started, I think it was around about the 1800s. It was made of bricks that were handmade here using the materials that were available. So we're talking adobe or mud bricks. So the mud was mixed with straw and then baked in the sun to produce a very strong, thick brick. Notice how I said that slowly because it's quite a difficult thing to say, thick brick. Anyway, that's how they're built. And there's a lot of them around here. They've become quite popular of late. Now, I'm not sure whether that's to do with the location or the insulation properties of the buildings themselves, because in the summer, they keep the place quite cool and you need that, but in the winter, you can keep them quite warm. There are quite a few in the area that are a little bit run down, but in the main, they're in pretty good nick around here, especially where we are. Now, in our particular case, ours have been modernised over a period of years, and that's happened on quite a few of them in and around the area, as I say. Families seem to be looking at moving out of the towns and the cities and coming to locations such as these. There's a big influx here as well of Dutch people and Germans who look to buy these properties and renovate them to a standard that they want to then perhaps rent them out as holiday lets. But for us, that wasn't the case. And when we found ours, we also realised that it had some work done on it over the years, but we could improve it. Now, this next video is going to be all about, just shows you a quick outline of our particular place and what we've actually got here and what we've done. So you get a little bit of an understanding. But as the months and the weeks go by, you're going to see a lot more of the things that we do here and why we do them. But this bit now is all about what we inherited and what we've done to change it for the better, we hope. So we arrived here in southern Hungary in the July of 2020. So it's been over 3 years already. This was the look of our place a couple of days after we got here. The terrace allowed us to have a few chairs outside and get some fresh air and enjoy a few cold drinks at the end of the day. But we had a lot of work ahead of us, some of which we were yet to discover. With the house renovations underway, it was time to start looking at the land and the 10 acres that we'd actually bought. And that look of the land was far different from what we'd got used to. Having seen it in the previous spring, we soon realised that there was a lot of work to be done if we're ever going to realise the dream of growing our own produce. So after many years of tilling, adding fertilisers and using pesticides, we needed to come up with a way of growing organically and also rescuing the soil at the same time. Without that, our chances of achieving an abundance of fruit and veg was very restricted. With no shelter either and harsh summer temperatures, we wanted to find a way of doing all these things. First thing we wanted to do was fence off our growing space to protect it from the local deer and the wild boar population, introduce some trees by planting an orchard, and create a method of making our own compost to start feeding the soil again. And so we began with regen. To understand that in more depth and the thinking behind it, I will put a link at the end of this video so you can watch to learn more. But basically, we consider all the different growing methods and take only the parts of each that we can successfully adapt and use in our particular climate, of course, without chemicals. The first thing we needed to do was to build compost bins. We then planted straight into the ground, either with transplants or seeds sown directly, just to see how good it could be. The aim was to discover what we could grow, what we could harvest, and learn about our new environment as well. So the question is, did we succeed? Well, I reckon we did. With the first proper full-time year of growing our own starting this season, we are already there. With the infrastructure in place, last year we grew a range of different fruit and veg and came in with a total of over 500 kilos, so not bad. And what about the house and our surroundings? Well, that too has seen some major changes as well. So that video there gives you a brief outline as to our particular place here. What did it cost us? You bet you're dying to ask that question. Well, I'll give you the answer. We bought the property and it came with 10 acres of land and we paid around about £10,000, which was the approximate exchange rate at the time when we did the deal. So 10 grand, £10,000, whatever the exchange rate was back then in 2018 for the US dollar. I can't tell you what that would be, but £10,000 is what we got. We got the house and the 10 acres of land. And so the renovations began. But just before we start the renovations, I've got to go through a fair bit of paperwork. We moved between the two COVID lockdowns in the UK. And so we got here in the July of the 2020. And when we got here, there was also the business of Brexit. Such a crazy idea. Why that ever happened, God only knows. But this is not a political channel, which means that's the last time you're going to hear me talk about Brexit. And I certainly won't be talking about Hungarian politics. We keep away from all that sort of stuff. So Brexit also meant there was a thing called the withdrawal agreement. So any UK national that lived in any EU country could apply for citizenship in that relevant country up to a period of time. I think it was 2 years after Brexit. So I had to apply for my WA identity card. And here you've got to carry an ID card. I know in the UK there's always a debate about whether you should have an ID card or not. And lots of people seem to think no. To be honest with you, I don't understand why not. Because it's not a difficult thing to carry with you. You put it in your wallet where you've got your cash and your credit cards because it's the same size. People seem to be worried about the fact that, I can be stopped and asked who I am. Freedom of movement. Do you know what? That's not such a debate. Again, I'm getting political, so I should stop. So anyway, back to it. I had to get my WA card. I also had to get 2 other forms of identity. One was an identity card for the post office so that I could prove that I lived where I did if I was having a letter or a parcel delivered. And also I had to have a local ID card. Now, whether that's for local council tax equivalents or what, I'm not sure. But I have to carry all 3. And like I say, it isn't difficult to do. There is another card that you should carry in case you become ill. They call that here a TAJ card, a TAJ card, which is basically a medical card, just to show that you are able to access health services here. Now, I have that through a UK scheme anyway, but yeah, okay, so you're carrying 4 ID cards. To be honest with you, I've never been asked for them, but if I do, they're in my wallet with my cash and my other cards. So what's the big deal? However, the paperwork exercise of doing it, that was difficult. And I have to renew this card every 5 years. Perhaps they want a nice photograph of me that's up to date. Perhaps I should redirect them to my YouTube channel. Anyway, that was that. Now we can start renovating the house and crack on with that. And that's exactly what we've done. It took us 18 months to 2 years, and there's still a little jobs here and there to get finished off, but we've renovated it. So what did we do? First thing we did, renewed all the electric wiring everywhere, from top to bottom, inside and also outside. So we've now got, as well as the house, we have some outbuildings here. So we've got power supplied to some of the outbuildings. We needed to make sure that the electrics were in very good condition, being an old house, we had no idea what was there. So renew everything. We even had a new electricity meter supplied to us, which is at the back of the house. It's in the middle of the vegetable garden. It's not a great place for it to be, but you have to make do with what you've got. Not a deal breaker. In fact, it's a great place for me to put a watering can when I'm walking around working in the garden, in the vegetable garden. And if you want to know about how we grow vegetables here, there's loads on the channel that you've probably already seen, and you'll see that box. At the same time, when they put in a new cable for that, they dug a trench down that was about, I think it was 2 to 3 meters deep, and it allowed me to then to look inside that trench and see the quality of the soil, and it was not good. As you've seen in the previous part of this video here, the land itself was shocker, an absolute shocker. Anyway, new electrics, we had to get new windows. So we replaced all the windows with triple glazed. And in the case of the terrace, what we've done is we filled that terrace area in, and now I'm sitting in that space. So it's a bit like a conservatory. It acts as our living room, but it's big enough to not only have our seating area to watch the TV, which I've also organised to have UK TV stuff here if I want to. I stream that. I have a very good internet connection. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to make this kind of content. We have our dining table and chairs in here as well. And we have a bit of an entrance hallway, all in one big space. So it's very open plan. The dog rather loves it, as does the cat. And you're going to be seeing more of them as we go through the weeks to come. We then had to change, obviously modernise the bathroom, put in a new kitchen. And as we started doing all this work, which we used a couple of local guys to do that, we started to uncover other issues within the house itself. So we've ended up having to dig out the old floors because they were made of compacted mud, basically. So we took those all out, we've insulated them with polystyrene, reinforced them with rebar, and then put new concrete flooring over the top. In this particular room here, we have underfloor heating. And we were able to do that because we also at the same time updated the central heating system. And that is run by a wood burning stove where we have to stack the logs each year. Again, that's a subject for another video. So we have underfloor heating here and we have radiators throughout the house. So it's nice, it's warm, it's light, as you can see, and it works well. It's also fairly inexpensive to run. Electricity for us here is a monthly fee of around about £30 sterling a month. And we pay that each month. We could wait until the end of the year and pay one final bill, but I don't like to do that sort of stuff. I like to know exactly where we are. We take our own readings, send it in via an app, we get the bill, it's paid, we know it's done. Some systems here allow you where you can pay so much per month, and at the end of the year, they come and take a meter reading, and if they find that you've paid too much, they send you the difference straight away. They don't hold on to it like some companies in the UK do. That's my experience. They send it back to you. And here's the weird thing. They don't send it to you by bank transfer and they don't send it to you by check. They send cash in the post. Can you believe that? Postman comes and hands you an envelope full of your rebate. Brilliant. So there you go. But we tend to, like I say, pay it monthly and we know we haven't got any weird surprises coming in along the way. So along with new kitchen, new bathroom, obviously decorating the new conservatory area. We're still not quite sure what to call this front room. I'm looking out down the driveway. We've had a new roof. We've insulated everywhere. So we've got a nice, efficient house. One downside for us, we don't have any mains gas and we don't have any mains water. So our water comes from our well that obviously we have on our land. And it's piped into the house, but it also feeds the irrigation systems that I've got throughout the garden, because we do use quite a bit of water, especially in the summer. We have to drain down that outside supply this time of the year because otherwise the pipes would freeze and the taps burst. So for the winter, it's drained down, but it still allows water supply into the house. And for hot water, well, basically we've got a massive electric boiler. Relatively speaking, it is cheap for me to run. But for a lot of natives here, they would say that that was expensive. So they have in the village, and we're about 2 kilometres from the village, they have gas mains. So it runs their central heating and their hot water as well. So for them, it's a bit more modern. But for us here, we're out not in the middle of nowhere, but we're fairly rural compared to a lot of places here. We have to rely on the wood burner for our central heating and electricity for our hot water supply. But that comes in with that bill of 30 or 40 quid a month for the electricity. So really, it is a lot less for me to be living here cost-wise as it is in the UK. Here's another example. In the UK, when we left, my council tax bill for where I was approximately £140 a month. I know it's gone up a lot since then, but I don't know by how much. We have a council tax here. It's a fiver. I think it's a fiver. I've got to get this right. I think it's 30 odd. It's something like £30 for the year, maybe less. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that with Anna. But anyway, you can see the difference in pricing already. It's not all fantastic news with regards to costs. Supermarket prices here aren't that much different to the UK. Petrol is cheaper, diesel is cheaper, but again, there isn't a massive comparison like there was when we first came. So prices have gone up, but like they have all around the world, I'm guessing. So, we're not unique. As well as showing you what we inherited with regards to the building, you also saw the land and what I said about the land. And obviously that has changed a lot over the last 3 years, because whilst the house is being renovated, I was set to work on the growing space. It's important for us to be able to produce our own produce as much as possible out of the ground. And as you could see from that film that I showed you earlier on in this particular video, the soil was not great. So I had to set about getting a system in place, and it has worked. So last year, having grown 500 kilos of veg, I know that my regen system is working absolutely brilliant for me here. And like I've said before, regen is a great way of you being able to take in all the different theories and adapt them to your own particular climate. So I've shown that it works, and that's the objective of this year. I want to grow a wider variety of vegetables and fruit, encourage the orchard to develop even more than it already is, maybe introduce a new line of other fruits and vegetables as well, to keep things moving along. But to be able to produce at least another 500 kilos of fruit and veg as we've done this year, but also explore the different ways of doing things with them. So there are loads of different traditional methods of preserving produce from other people's gardens here. You don't tend to see an awful lot of people keeping stuff in their gardens through the through the winter months. So they preserve them. And traditionally, they may not have had a freezer. So they do a lot of canning. I've not come across a lot of fermenting, but that is quite a new thing at the moment. I'm just looking out the window and I'm watching our cat. He's having a great time out in the snow. We had snow a couple of days ago. He just hasn't thawed out. And he's wandering around trying to find how he can catch one of the birds. If you know Jack, you know he's only got one eye. So for him to catch a bird is near on impossible. But it doesn't stop him trying. I've got a bird feeder to my right, and I've got my winter visitors of blackbirds. The wildlife here is absolutely incredible. There's so much to see. We've had to fence the area because we've got a lot of wild deer here, and there's also an element of wild boar that just go wherever they want. So the wildlife is amazing to see. In the UK, I'd only see 2 or 3 goldfinch. Here, I get flocks of 40 or 50. I've counted them. I've had to photograph them on my electric cables outside and then count them after taking that photograph. Average 50 in a flock. I've never seen anything like that before. So the wildlife for us here, or for me in particular, is huge. Be it birds, mammals, reptiles. What I see migrating through is incredible. To see a stork perched on top of a telegraph pole with its huge nest. I've never seen it before, but I see it often here now. And so it all adds to that wellness feeling that we get here. The thing is, when I look around, I'm now lucky enough to be in the position to be able to sit and think that I have the opportunity, or we have the opportunity, to grow our own food and be a lot less reliant on supermarkets. I know that I can produce stuff that's organic, so it's great for our health. We're reducing our effects on the climate. All right, it might be small, but it's still a reduction nonetheless, and that's important. If we all choose not to do anything, well, what are we going to have in 10 years' time? So the benefits for us are the physical health, the mental health, because we get that from being outside and looking at the wildlife, and and just the feel-good factor is just incredible for us. So, it's a great thing to do. And relatively speaking, a lot less money, because I wouldn't have never been able to afford this kind of lifestyle back in the UK. I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit here and go, yeah, I've kind of retired now, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to take it easy. That's not what I'm aiming to do. What I want to do is show people that there are alternatives. Now, whether that's you watching this on YouTube or my neighbour across the way there learning how to make compost or whatever it might be, showing somebody what a drinking vinegar is. These are all videos that are on the YouTube channel, but there's only so many videos like that that I can make. They become boring after a while, and not only boring for you, but also boring for me. So perhaps you want to see something new. Well, you can join me and Anna as we go around here, growing our own stuff, making new things and experiencing different things that I've never come across before. You never know, I might take you to a trip to a Hungarian spa one day. Do you really want to see me in my boxer shorts? You probably don't. But looking in the distance, there's a vineyard on that, wooded areas, there's tracks to explore, there's a fishing lake to have a look at. There's so much to see and do. I'm looking across here back at the bird feeders. Ever seen 15 great tits buzzing around eating food like I'm seeing now? I've never seen this many before. So it's always something new to see every day. I'm not going to keep telling you how to grow a carrot, but I'll show you how I do mine. And I'll show you all the different things that I have to get over in order to get what we want to get, which is an abundance, like I say, of fresh, good quality fruit and vegetables that we can use ourselves or share with our neighbours and friends and family. That's the whole idea. Now, if you want to join me on this channel, hit the logo and you're more than welcome to see what I get up to. But I can guarantee you one thing, and that is that over the next few weeks and months, we're going to have loads of adventures, some big, some small. You're going to see lots of different things happening around our space, inside the fence and outside the fence and beyond. We'll have a look around in the village. I'm going to show you stuff about the post office that you're probably not used to, because I find that quite interesting. You might not, and if you don't, you can always skip that part of the video. But I'm always comparing what we have available amenity-wise in our village here as opposed to what we had back in the UK. So I'll show you that. This is not a tourist guide to say, come and move here. There's a couple of Tanyas for sale that need renovating to my right as I'm sort of pointing in that direction. And there's a few houses for sale in the village. We don't want village life. Most houses have got a dog like we have, and they constantly bark when you go past the gate. We don't want that. We want a bit of peace and quiet, and we have that here. So join us as we walk around this space, as we walk beyond the fence line, and maybe have a few day trips out on a Hungarian train. They're always on time. It's going to be an interesting journey. For now, take care, and I'll catch you next time.